Success decided to become a girl in the day and a boy in the night because he wanted to be with Chisom. Success has always admired her from afar. Chisom, with her bright eyes and beautiful smile, had captivated Success's heart since childhood. But there was a barrier between them. Chisom despised boys. Her upbringing had taught her that men were not to be trusted, and she grew up with a strong distance for them. Success is a young boy living with his grandmother in a quiet community in Enugu State. He had watched Chisom with expectation in his heart. He knew that to win her affection, he had to find a way to be by her side, but as a boy, this seemed impossible. But, one day, Success came up with a daring plan. At 16, they were preparing to enter senior secondary school, and he made a decision that would change his life. He planned to pretend to be a girl, just to be close to Chisom, who attends Federal Girls College in the same community. With his unisex name Success, and his soft nature, it would be easy enough to act as a girl. His grandmother, busy with her own life and never questioning his decisions, remained unaware of his plan. The desire to be close to Chisom fueled his determination, and he knew this was the only way he could win her heart. Success stood in front of the mirror, watching his reflection. His heart pounded with a mix of excitement and fear. His plan was risky, but it was his only shot. He braided his hair that he has been grooming for months, practiced his voice and held over to register himself in Chisom's school. He had always been soft-spoken, so adjusting his tone wasn't too difficult. His transformation was complete, but the real challenge lay ahead, convincing Chisom and the entire school that he was just another girl. On the first day of school, Success felt like his legs would give way under him. He entered the gates of the school, his heart racing. Chisom was already there, laughing with her friends. Success carefully approached her, afraid of being found out but even more afraid of being rejected. When Chisom turned to him and smiled, his heart leaped. But it was only the beginning. Success took a deep breath as he joined the group of girls, including Chisom. It felt weird being this close to her, something he only dreamed about. They greeted him with polite smiles, but Chisom barely acknowledged his presence. Success quickly realized that gaining her friendship was not going to be easy. The day dragged on, with Success carefully playing his role, pretending to fit in. He studied the girls, observing their mannerisms and behavior, making sure not to slip up. During lunch, Success tried to sit next to Chisom, but she quickly moved away to sit with her friends. This left him feeling dejected, but he knew he had to be patient. The girls around him seemed nice enough, but Chisom was different. She had a wall around her, and it was going to take more than casual friendliness to break through. Success didn't give up. He knew this was just the beginning of his journey to get closer to the girl he loved. Days turned into weeks, and Success slowly settled into his new identity. He made a few friends among the girls, but his heart was always set on Chisom. She remained distant, though Success found ways to occasionally be around her. Whether it was during group assignments or breaks between classes, he tried to start conversations. Sometimes Chisom would respond with a smile, but other times she would give only brief, curt replies. Success started to learn more about Chisom through their shared friends. He discovered her deep-rooted distrust of boys came from growing up with a strict mother who always warned her about men. Chisom's father had abandoned the family when she was young, fueling her resentment. Understanding this only made Success more determined to protect her, to prove that not all boys were bad. Slowly, Chisom began to let her guard down around him, though she still held a quiet reservation. Success felt like he was walking on eggshells, but he never gave up. One afternoon, during a biology project, the teacher paired Success with Chisom. His heart skipped a beat as he realized this was his opportunity. For the first time, they would have to spend quality time together, working on something outside of casual conversation. It felt like the first real chance he had to break through the icy walls surrounding her heart. At first, Chisom seemed indifferent, focusing on the project without much personal interaction. But over time, as they worked through the assignment, Success found ways to make her laugh, slowly warming her to his presence. By the end of the week, they were sitting together during lunch and sharing inside jokes from their project. Success could hardly believe how close he was getting to her, but his heart reminded him that this friendship was built on a lie. The weight of his secret grew heavier with every passing day. As time passed, Chisom and Success became close friends. Success had integrated himself into her life, and they spent nearly every school break together. From library study sessions to after-school walks, they were inseparable. Success found joy in the simple moments, like watching Chisom smile at his jokes or confide in him about her life. They talked about their dreams, their plans for the future, and their shared love for books and music. Even as their bond deepened, Success's feelings became harder to suppress. He was no longer satisfied with just being her friend. Every time Chisom confided in him about her distrust of men, his heart broke a little more. He wanted to show her that love could exist beyond her painful experiences, but he couldn't reveal his true identity. Not yet. Instead, he swallowed his feelings, promising himself that one day, when the time was right, he would confess. The more Success got close to Chisom, the harder it became to maintain the lie. Every interaction was a test of his ability to stay in character. He was forced to adopt more feminine traits, even if it sometimes felt unnatural. But just to fit in, he started hanging out more with the girls, engaging in their conversations about fashion, beauty, and relationships. It was exhausting at times, but Success found himself succeeding in this new world. One afternoon, during a girls' group outing, in the school, Success found himself cornered. The girls were talking about crushes, and Chisom was surprisingly telling them about her hatred for boys. She talked about how she may never fall in love because no boy could ever understand her. Her words stung Success, but he kept smiling, pretending to agree. In that moment, he realized how deeply her hatred for men was. It made him question his entire plan. How could he ever reveal his feelings to her if she despised everything he was? As Success pondered on Chisom's words, doubt began to creep in. The reality of his deception weighed on him more heavily than ever. Could he ever truly confess his love without destroying the friendship they had built? Would Chisom be able to forgive him if she found out the truth? These questions haunted him every night as he lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Success had come too far to give up, but the risk of losing Chisom forever terrified him. At school, things remained normal between them, but Success felt the growing tension in his heart. The more time he spent with Chisom, the more he realized how deeply he had fallen for her. He couldn't imagine a future without her by his side. Yet, every time he looked into her eyes, he saw the same friend she had always been, a friend who still harbored mistrust toward boys. He knew that one wrong move could shatter everything. After 3 years of being in the same secondary school and writing their final exams, they both processed and got admission in the same university in the city of Enugu to study business administration. Their bond grew even stronger as they walked through the challenges of campus life together. Though in separate rooms, they shared an apartment on campus, as they were both close friends by now. Success was living his dream, being near Chisom at all times, but the burden of his secret became harder to carry. As they grew, Chisom often spoke about her fears of relationships, confessing how she was scared of men trying to deceive her. Success wanted nothing more than to tell her the truth, but the stakes had never been higher. They were both older now, and their friendship had deepened to the point where losing her would be unbearable. Success began to wonder if he would ever have the courage to reveal himself or if he was doomed to remain in disguise forever. One evening, the girls in their compound invited them for a girls' night out. It was a carefree event, filled with laughter, music, and games. Success, caught up in the moment of fun, allowed himself to relax and enjoy the night. But as the night became intense, the atmosphere between him and Chisom shifted. They decided to move to the balcony to enjoy fresh air and avoid the tense atmosphere. They found themselves alone on the balcony, away from the noise and the laughter. Under the dim moonlight, Success felt the pull of his emotions overwhelming him. Without thinking, he leaned in and kissed Chisom. It was a soft, gentle kiss, filled with years of hidden affection. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. But when he pulled back, he saw the shock and confusion in Chisom's eyes. His heart raced as he realized what he had done. Now, there was no turning back. The air around them grew thick with tension after the kiss. Chisom stared at Success, her eyes wide with disbelief. Success's heart pounded in his chest as the weight of his actions sank in. He opened his mouth to explain, but no words came out. Chisom stepped back, confusion and anger dancing across her face. Without saying a word, she turned and hurried back inside, leaving Success standing on the balcony, filled with regret. The rest of the night was a blur. Success barely interacted with the other girls and made an excuse to leave early. His mind raced with fear. What had he done? Would Chisom hate him now? How could he explain something so complex, something that had been building for years? As Success lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, he knew one thing for sure: the moment he had been dreading had finally come, and there was no hiding from it anymore. The next morning, Chisom avoided Success. She left early for her classes, not bothering to knock on his door or call to wake him as she usually did. Throughout the day, she kept her distance, her eyes filled with confusion whenever they met Success' eyes. She didn't mention the kiss, didn't ask any questions, but Success could feel the walls between them growing higher with every passing hour. Chisom couldn't understand what had happened. She had always seen Success as a loyal friend, the one person she trusted since they left secondary school. The kiss had shattered that perception, leaving her in a whirlwind of emotions. Could she trust Success anymore? Did she even want to? Is she truly a girl? Why did the kiss felt so real like a guy? Is she a lesbian? The thought of being betrayed by someone so close to her cut deep, but she didn't know what to do. Was the kiss a mistake, or was there something more behind it? Days passed, and the silence between Success and Chisom grew unbearable. Success knew he couldn't avoid the inevitable conversation forever. One evening, when Chisom returned to the apartment, Success was waiting for her in the living room. His hands were trembling, but he had made up his mind. It was time to confess everything: the lie, the feelings, the truth behind his disguise. Chisom barely looked at him as she entered the living room. "We need to talk," Success said quietly. She sat down, crossing her arms, her expression unreadable. Success took a deep breath and began, explaining how he had fallen in love with her as a child and how her hatred for boys had led him to this drastic plan. He spoke of his struggles, his guilt, and his love that had only grown over the years. He told her everything, leaving nothing out. When he finished, Chisom was silent. The air was thick with tension as she processed the revelation. She looked away, tears forming in her eyes. "You lied to me," she whispered, her voice filled with hurt. "All these years, you've been lying to me." Chisom's voice shook with anger as she stood up, glaring at Success. "I trusted you. You were the only person I felt safe with, the only friend I thought would never hurt me. And this whole time, you were deceiving me." She paced around the room, her hands trembling. "How could you do this? How could you pretend to be someone you're not? Do you know what that feels like?" Success tried to speak, to apologize, but Chisom cut him off. "No, don't say anything. I don't even know who you are anymore." The betrayal in her voice was evident, and Success felt his heart breaking. He had expected her to be hurt, but seeing her pain in real time was far worse than he had imagined. "Was any of it real?" she demanded, her eyes filled with tears. "Or was this all some twisted game to you?" Success shook his head, tears welling up in his own eyes. "It wasn't a game, Chisom. I swear, everything I felt was real. I didn't know how else to be close to you." Chisom couldn't take it anymore. She grabbed her bag and stormed out of the apartment, slamming the door behind her. Success stood frozen in place, his mind reeling from everything that had just happened. He had feared this moment for so long, and now it had finally come, ripping apart the very foundation of their friendship. He felt like his entire world was crumbling. Chisom was gone, and he didn't know if she would ever come back to him as a friend. While outside, Chisom walked aimlessly through the campus, her mind spinning. She didn't know where to go or who to talk to. Everything felt like a lie. How could she ever trust Success again after what he had done? The memories of their friendship now felt tainted, overshadowed by the deception that had lingered beneath the surface all these years. She wanted to scream, to cry, to escape the whirlwind of emotions pulling her in every direction. That night was the longest of Successor's life. He stayed up, waiting for Chisom to return, but she never did. He replayed their conversation in his mind over and over, analyzing every word, every moment of her pain. He had hurt her deeply, and there was no going back. But he knew he had to try to make things right, even if it meant losing her forever. Chisom spent the night at her course-mate's place, barely speaking to anyone. Her mind was too clouded by emotions to make sense of anything. She knew from the beginning that Success' body was too stiff and strong to be a girl, but she shook it off. After all, it takes a long time for some girls to fully have that girly body. She cried herself to sleep, torn between the hurt of being lied to and the lingering confusion about her feelings for Success. Somewhere deep down, she knew that she cared for him, but she couldn't reconcile those feelings with the betrayal she felt. It was too much for her to handle all at once. The next morning, Chisom came back home to prepare for her lecture, and Success decided to confront her again. He knew she needed space, but he couldn't just let things end like this. He wrote her a heartfelt letter, pouring his emotions onto the page, explaining everything once more. He didn't expect her to forgive him, but he wanted her to understand the depth of his love and regret. He slid the letter under her door and left, hoping that she would read it. Chisom found the letter while entering her room in the evening after lectures. At first, she didn't want to open it, still too angry and hurt to face Success again. But curiosity got the better of her, and she slowly unfolded the paper. As she read his words, the raw honesty and pain in the letter struck her. Success was hurting too, and despite her anger, she couldn't ignore the sincerity of his confession. For the first time, she began to question whether there was a way to salvage their friendship, or perhaps even something more. Chisom stared at the letter for what felt like hours, her emotions boiling inside her. She had every reason to be angry with Success. He had deceived her for years, pretending to be someone he wasn't. But as she read and reread the letter, something inside her softened. Successor's words were raw, honest, and filled with regret. He had been trapped by his own love for her, caught in a lie that had gone out of control. Chisom didn't know if she could forgive him, but a part of her wanted to try. After all, wasn't their friendship real, even if it had been built on a lie? The moments they had shared, the laughter, the support, the companionship, all of that couldn't have been fake. Slowly, Chisom began to wonder if there was more to their relationship than she had allowed herself to see. She decided that she needed to talk to Success, not to forgive him entirely, but to understand what came next. Later that evening, she came to the kitchen and found Success sitting at the kitchen table, his face filled with uncertainty as he glanced up at her. She could see the fear and hope in his eyes. The tension in the room was noticeable, but she took a deep breath and sat across from him. Neither of them spoke at first, the silence heavy between them. Finally, Chisom broke the silence. "I read your letter," she said quietly. Success nodded, his heart pounding in his chest. "How can you pretend to be a girl for almost 8 years just to be with me? I don't know if I can ever forgive you for lying to me," she continued, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "But I also don't know if I can walk away from you either." Success looked up at her, surprised. "I never meant to hurt you," he said softly. I was afraid you'd hate me if you knew the truth. I wanted to be close to you, and I thought this was the only way." Chisom sighed. "I don't know what to do with all of this, Success. You hurt me, but I also know that everything we went through together felt real. I just don't know if I can trust you again." The conversation that night was long and painful. Success apologized again and again, while Chisom tried to make sense of her conflicting emotions. She didn't forgive him right away, but she agreed to give their friendship a second chance. It wouldn't be easy, and things would never be the same, but they both knew that walking away wasn't the answer either. For weeks, things were awkward between them. Chisom struggled to rebuild the trust that had been broken, while Success did everything he could to show her that his feelings had always been genuine. They spent less time together than before, and when they did, it was often filled with tension and unspoken words. But slowly, little by little, they began to find a new rhythm, a fragile connection that held the possibility of something more. As time passed, Chisom began to see success in a different light. She couldn't deny the sincerity of his feelings, nor could she ignore the years they had spent as close friends. While she still held on to the betrayer, she also realized that success had never meant to harm her. He had been a boy in love, trapped by circumstances and fear, doing what he thought was best to stay near her. One evening, as they sat together in the quiet apartment, Chisom turned to Success. "Why did you love me, even when you knew I hated boys?" she asked, her voice soft but curious. Success smiled sadly. "Because I saw more than that. You were always kind, even when you were distant. And I knew you had your reasons for the way you felt about boys, but I wanted to show you that not everyone is the same. I wanted to be the one to protect you, not hurt you." Chisom looked at him for a long moment, and for the first time, she felt a flicker of something beyond friendship. Could she ever feel something deeper for Success? She didn't know, but she was beginning to consider the possibility. In the next few months, their relationship continued to grow. Chisom and Success began to rebuild their friendship, but in all this, they never spoke about an important part that happened. The kiss they shared that transforming night lingered in Chisom's mind, and she couldn't ignore the way her heart fluttered when she was around him. Yes, Success had stopped wearing his female clothes and openly switched to a guy after that night. Chisom, on the other hand, still wasn't ready to admit the feeling she had during the kiss to herself, but something had shifted. Success remained patient. He had come to terms with the fact that he might never win Chisom's heart the way he had always dreamed, but he cherished the fact that she didn't push him away completely. He was willing to wait as long as it took for her to forgive him fully, and maybe, just maybe, to see him in a new light. It was a quiet afternoon when the unexpected happened. Success and Chisom were sitting in their apartment, working on a shared project from school. They had fallen into a comfortable silence, the awkwardness between them nearly gone. Chisom glanced at Success, watching the way he focused intently on his work. There was something calming about his presence, something she had always appreciated but had never fully acknowledged. Without thinking, Chisom leaned over and placed her hand on his. Success looked up in surprise, his heart skipping a beat. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Chisom's eyes were soft, and Success could see the confusion and curiosity moving within them. Slowly, she leaned in closer, and before either of them knew what was happening, their lips met once again. But this time, it wasn't out of desperation or confusion. It was a kiss filled with mutual understanding, with the possibility of something more. When they pulled away, Chisom's face was flushed, and she looked at Success with wide eyes. "I don't know what this means," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I think I'm ready to figure it out." Success smiled, his heart swelling with hope. "We can take it slow," he said gently. "I'm not in any rush. I just want to be with you, whatever that looks like." Chisom nodded, feeling a strange mixture of fear and excitement. She wasn't sure where this new path would lead, but for the first time, she was open to exploring it. Maybe, just maybe, Success had been right all along. Love could exist beyond the pain, beyond the distrust she had carried with her for so long. The next few days were filled with cautious exploration. Chisom and Success began to spend more time together, but now it felt different. There was a tenderness between them, a growing closeness that neither of them could deny. Chisom still had moments of doubt, moments where she questioned whether she could fully let go of the past, but each time, Success was there to reassure her. Success, on the other hand, was careful not to push too hard. He knew that Chisom needed time to fully accept her feelings, and he was willing to give her as much space as she needed. For now, he was content just being close to her, knowing that their bond was slowly transforming into something deeper. One evening, as they sat together on the balcony, enjoying the cool night air, Chisom voiced the thoughts that had been bothering her. "You know, I've been trying to move past what happened, but it's hard. I still don't know if I can completely trust you." Success, who had been gazing at the stars, turned to her. I know, and I don't blame you. I spent years pretending to be someone I'm not, and that's not something you can easily forget. He hesitated, then continued, I want you to know that from now on, I'm going to be honest with you about everything. No more secrets, no more pretending. Chisom nodded, appreciating his words. I just need time, she said quietly. It's not something that can be fixed overnight. Success understood, but the reminder of the delicate state of their relationship weighed heavily on him. He knew that love required more than just affection, it needed truth, and he was determined to give her that. As the weeks passed, Chisom and Success began to navigate their new relationship. They weren't officially a couple yet, but the line between friendship and romance had clearly blurred. They started spending more time alone, having late-night conversations that delved deeper than before. Chisom found herself opening up to Success in ways she hadn't expected. She shared more about her past, explaining how her mother's toxic relationships with men had shaped her views. I always saw men as threats, as people who would hurt me, she explained one night. That's why I pushed you and every other boy away. Success listened quietly, his heart heavy with empathy. I never wanted to be one of those people who hurt you, he said softly. That's why I went to such lengths to stay close to you, even though I was wrong to lie. Chisom sighed. I know. And it's complicated, because I don't know if I would have ever given you a chance if you hadn't pretended. It's like, I hate what you did, but I also understand it. One evening, as they sat on the couch watching a movie, Success felt an overwhelming urge to speak because he was tired of bottling up his feelings. Turning to face her, Success said, Chisom, I need to tell you something. Chisom paused the movie, raising an eyebrow. What is it? I know we've been taking things slow, and I'm fine with that, Success began, his voice steady. But I want you to know that my feelings for you haven't changed. If anything, they've only grown stronger. Chisom's expression softened, and she reached out to take his hand. I know, Success. And I'm still trying to figure out my own feelings. But I think I'm starting to see you in a different light, too. Success's heart swelled with hope. You mean that? Chisom smiled, a small but genuine smile. Yes, I do. The conversation that night marked a turning point for Chisom. She realized that if she wanted to move forward with Success, she had to let go of the fear that had been holding her back. It wasn't easy, but she was willing to try. Success had proven himself time and time again, and now it was her turn to take a leap of faith. So, Chisom decided to give Success a chance and officially became his girlfriend in their last year in the university. It was a short period that felt like forever. They did everything together as usual, but this time around everyone knew about their friendship and relationship. As Chisom and Success' relationship continued to grow, it was time for another major step, meeting Chisom's family. They were done with their final exams and they both went to their separate family house. Success knew that meeting Chisom's family would be a tough moment. Chisom had spoken often about her mother and the struggles they had faced together. Now, Success was going to be introduced as more than just a friend. Chisom was anxious about it too, unsure of how her mother would react. Her mother's distrust of men ran deep, and while Chisom had begun to see Success differently, she wasn't certain her mother would. One evening, Success decided to visit Chisom. He was dressed in his best outfit, and knocked on the door of Chisom's family home. When her mother answered the door, her eyes widened in surprise. Success smiled politely, his nerves hidden behind his charm. Chisom, standing beside him, introduced him. Mom, this is Success, my boyfriend. Her mother's face shifted slightly, her eyes analyzing Success in a way that made him feel embarrassed. She allowed him in and asked him to join them for dinner. It was a tense moment, filled with formalities and stiff conversation. Success tried his best to win her over, but it was clear that Chisom's mother wasn't ready to embrace him yet. After dinner, as Success helped clear the table, Chisom's mother pulled her aside. I hope you know what you're doing, Chisom, she said, her voice low. Men don't change. You can never trust them completely. Chisom sighed, her heart heavy. Success isn't like the men you've known, Mom. He's different. Her mother gave her a sad smile. I've heard that before. The conversation with her mother weighed on Chisom long after they left. As they walked back to Success House in silence, Chisom's mind was spinning with thoughts. Could her mother be right? Was she just setting herself up for the same heartbreak her mother had endured? Sensing her unease, Success stopped walking and gently turned her to face him. What's wrong? Chisom hesitated, unsure if she should say what was on her mind. It's my mom, she finally admitted. She doesn't trust you. She thinks I'm making a mistake. Successor's expression softened with understanding. I get it. She's protective of you, and I know she has her reasons. But Chisom, we're not her. We're different. I know, Chisom whispered, though a part of her still felt unsure. It's just hard to shake that fear. What if she's right? Success held her gaze, his voice firm yet kind. She's not right about us. I'm not perfect, but I'm not going to let you down, Chisom. I've already hurt you once by lying, and I've learned from that. I'm not that person anymore. Chisom looked at him for a long moment, the doubt in her heart still lingering but beginning to fade in the warmth of his sincerity. She nodded slowly, and together, they continued walking. While they went for NYSC in the same city, the tension with Chisom's mother became a background noise rather than a central issue. Success and Chisom settled into their service life, their relationship growing stronger as they faced new challenges together. They prepared for lectures late in the night, supported each other through stressful projects, and leaned on each other as they went through the NYSC period unsure of what came after 1 year. NYSC ended with mixed emotions. Chisom and Success had both worked hard to achieve their degrees, and the future seemed bright. But with graduation came the question of what came next. They had spent so many years in the university, and now they had to face the reality of building careers and navigating the world outside of academics. Chisom was offered a job in Abuja, while Success remained in Enugu with his new job. He tried joining Chisom in Abuja, but the job opportunity was too good to let go. And he also had plans to stay close to home and help his grandmother. The prospect of being separated weighed heavily on both of them. We've been through so much together, Success said one evening as they discussed the possibility of long distance. I don't want to lose you now. Chisom's heart ached at the thought of being apart, but she also knew that she couldn't turn down her job too. I don't want to lose you either, she said quietly. But we have to face reality. We both have dreams, and they are leading us in different directions right now. They sat in silence for a while, neither of them knowing what to say. Success finally spoke up, his voice soft but firm. We'll make it work, Chisom. We've overcome bigger obstacles than distance. I believe in us. Chisom nodded, her eyes filled with uncertainty but also hope. I believe in us too. As Chisom moved to Abuja to start her job, the reality of a long-distance relationship hit harder than either of them had anticipated. They spoke on the phone every night, but it wasn't the same as being together. Success missed the warmth of Chisom's presence, the way she would laugh at his jokes, and the simple comfort of sitting beside her in silence. For Chisom, the move was both exciting and lonely. Her new job was demanding, and while she was passionate about her work, she found herself missing Success more than she had expected. She started to wonder if they could really make it through the challenges ahead. The distance began to weigh heavily on both of them. What had started as hopeful phone calls and regular messages slowly became different. Success missed Chisom deeply, but his responsibilities at home with his grandmother, along with his own career struggles, made it difficult to maintain the same level of commitment. Chisom, on the other hand, was facing challenges of her own. Her new job was demanding, and while she was succeeding professionally, she found herself feeling isolated. The long hours, combined with the growing distance between her and Success, made her question whether their relationship could survive. One night, after a particularly long day at work, Chisom stared at her phone, debating whether to call Success. The silence between them had been growing, and she feared what another awkward conversation would bring. Finally, with a heavy heart, she dialed his number. Hey, she said when he picked up. We need to talk. Success knew what was coming, and he braced himself. "I've been thinking the same thing," he admitted, his voice quiet. Chisom sighed, feeling the weight of their situation. "I don't know if this is working. I miss you, but we're both so busy. It feels like we're living in two different worlds now." Success ran a hand through his hair, struggling to find the right words. "I miss you too, Chisom. Every day. But you're right. This distance, it's hard. I don't want to hold you back, and I don't want you to feel like you're alone." They sat in silence for a moment, the reality of their situation sinking in. "So, what do we do?" Chisom finally asked, her voice tinged with sadness. Success swallowed, the answer coming slowly but inevitably. Maybe we need to take a break. Give ourselves some time to focus on our lives, and if it's meant to be, we'll find our way back to each other. Chisom's heart ached at the thought, but she knew he was right. "I think that's for the best." The decision to take a break was mutual, but that didn't make it any easier. For weeks, both Chisom and Success struggled with the absence of each other in their lives. Chisom threw herself into her work, hoping the distraction would stop the pain. Success, too, focused on his career and helping his grandmother, but every quiet moment brought memories of Chisom flooding back. Neither of them knew what the future held, but for now, they needed time apart to grow individually. Months passed, and both Success and Chisom found new rhythms in their lives. Chisom excelled at her job, earning praise and recognition for her hard work. She made new friends in the city and slowly began to rebuild her sense of self outside of the relationship. Success, too, found his footing. He started his own business even while working in his office. Though he missed Chisom, he began to see the value in the space they had given each other. For the first time in years, he was learning to live for himself rather than for his love for Chisom. One weekend, while visiting her hometown for a family event, Chisom ran into Success at a local restaurant. It was unexpected, and the moment was filled with a rush of emotions. They sat down together, and though their conversation was light and casual, the connection between them was still palpable. "How have you been?" Success asked, his eyes searching hers. "I've been good," Chisom replied, smiling softly. "Busy, but good. And you?" "Same here. Life's been different without you, but I'm doing okay." There was a moment of silence, both of them wondering if this encounter meant something more. After their meeting, both Chisom and Success couldn't stop thinking about each other. The time apart had given them both clarity. Chisom realized how much she had grown as an individual, and Success saw that his feelings for her had matured. They weren't the same people they had been when they first met, but the bond between them still lingered. Over the next few weeks, they texted occasionally, slowly rebuilding their friendship. They both knew they needed to be sure before jumping back into anything, but the possibility of rekindling their romance hovered in the air. After months of reflection and personal growth, Success finally reached out to Chisom with a proposal. "Can we meet and talk? I think it's time we figure out what's next for us." Chisom agreed, feeling both nervous and hopeful. When they met, there was no need for pretense. They spoke honestly about their time apart, how they had grown, and what they wanted for their futures. "I still love you, Chisom," Success said, his voice steady. "But I don't want to rush things. Let's take it one step at a time." Chisom smiled, her heart lighter than it had been in months. "I love you too, Success. Let's see where this goes." With a renewed sense of purpose, Chisom and Success decided to slowly take their relationship to the next level. They were no longer the young people who had once struggled with secrets and insecurities. Now, they were more grounded, more honest with themselves and each other. They spent time rebuilding their trust, sharing their individual experiences and focusing on their shared goals. There were no more secrets, no more lies. For the first time, their relationship was built on a foundation of mutual respect and understanding. One fateful day at work, Chisom received an email. It was a transfer and promotion offer from the company. Chisom was shocked with mixed feelings. Should she be happy for the promotion or be happy that she is being transferred to a new good to meet Success? Her joy was without control. She immediately picked up her phone to call Success and shared the good news with him. Success was so happy that his dream of making Chisom his wife is coming to pass without obstacles. One evening, after Chisom moved to Enugu, she invited Success to dinner with her mother. This time, it was different. Chisom's mother had seen the change in her daughter and was more open to the idea of Success being part of her life. Over dinner, Success and Chisom's mother talked about their past misunderstandings, and by the end of the night, there was a new sense of acceptance. Chisom's mother, though still protective, could see that Success was serious about her daughter and was willing to give their relationship her blessing. One evening while taking a walk along the beach after 3 months of relocation and building their relationship with each passing day, Success turned to Chisom with a nervous smile. "I've loved you since we were kids," he began, his voice filled with emotion. "We've been through so much, and I can't imagine my life without you. Will you marry me?" Tears of joy and surprise filled Chisom's eyes as she smiled and nodded. "Yes, Success. Yes." Success felt like the happiest man on earth at that moment, after all his disguise of being a girl didn't go to waste. He had always wanted to get married to Chisom even as a child, and he is happy to be the favored man in Chisom's life. Success and Chisom's marriage marked the beginning of a new chapter. They built a life filled with love, laughter, and mutual respect. Their journey hadn't been easy, but it had been worth every challenge. Together, they faced the future with the knowledge that love, when nurtured with honesty and patience, could conquer any obstacle. They lived their lives with purpose, both pursuing their individual dreams while always supporting each other. Their story became one of love, not just between two people but a love that healed past wounds, united families, and stood the test of time. And as the years went by, they continued to walk hand in hand, knowing that their love had been, and always would be, their greatest success. What can you do for love? Like and subscribe for more interesting and educating stories like this. Thank you.